Alright everyone, Not So Slim Jim here again. Here with another video, of course. Anyways, I have a 2005 allroad with the BEL and the tip transmission. And I wanted to get rid of my uber restrictive downpipes, because obviously they have the cap-lift converter, the pre-cats and the post-cats. Pre-cat's supposed to be the worst. And I look around online, there's not a whole lot out there. And the few write-ups I found for it, found a couple of videos, but those were for the manual transmissions, and you know, it didn't seem too horrible. But for the automatics, everyone's like, oh dude, you got to drop the motor, you know, and then you can take the downpipes down. It's the only way to do it. I've seen a few people say you can do it, but you have to like undo the motor mounts and lift the motor up and all kinds of crazy stuff, and it takes ridiculous amounts of time. Well, I'm not putting aftermarket pipes on. Now, there's some good videos, or write-ups at least, if you look on like the Audi forums, about the modifications you need to do to your transmission mounts to be able to get the excess power ones to fit. So if you use this and the guideline for that, because you're going to have to remove your transmission mounts, which really isn't all that bad. It's like three bolts. You got to remove the mount, the actual rubber mount first, which comes out really easy. It's 2 13 mils in the bottom, and then I think like a 16 on top. Pull that out, and then you have three bolts on top, which comes out. You can modify it without having to pull the motor, and then put it into place, and then run the pipe up. Well, technically the pipe comes first, and then if you need to check it, and if it doesn't fit, you can pull it back down, grind a little bit, put it back up, keep checking, keep checking, keep checking. Anyways, I'm going to make a quick video. It's going to be little segments of what to do, for the most part, of how to get it out without removing the motor. You are going to have to lift the transmission up just a hair, but it's just, you know, lift the back tail end up a little bit, put a jack stand underneath it, that's it. So, get ready for the awesomeness. Yay! Alright, step one, you are going to have to jack the front end of the car up. Me, I'm a tubby boy, so I'd lift it a little bit higher. But lift it up high enough where you can comfortably work underneath it. Then you're going to have to remove your wheels and tires. Now, my other side's already done. As you can tell, I already went ahead and cut it because I gutted my cat. So, yeah, as you can see, it's off. And look, the motor is not out. So, go ahead and take your wheel and tire off, which I'm going to do here in a minute. But let me show you the next step real quick, fast, in a hurry. What you're going to do is you're going to take... It's going to be 2 13 millimeter bolts on your transmission mounts right there. And you got to undo both sides. Obviously that side's missing. After those are loosened, you can lift the transmission up. It doesn't need to go real high. Just about 3/4 of an inch or so. You can use a jack stand, and make sure you put it on the metal piece of the transmission, not the pan. Metal, not pan. Pan bad. Metal good. That way, yeah, I know, I have a little coolant leak I gotta find. Don't worry about that one. It only does it when my car's in the up position for some freaking reason. You're gonna need to do that because you're gonna have to pull your transmission mounts and brackets to be able to get the pipe out. I know, it's stupid, but German engineering, right? So go ahead and loosen that. It's going to be a little tight. What you can do is you can undo your, if you can't get the jack and jack stand in there, is, obviously mine's an aftermarket because I have catback, but undo your brackets or your whatever, clamps here, and then you can actually pull your exhaust out on both sides a little bit because you have room with the flex pipes, and then you have enough room to get your jack underneath there to lift it up. Don't do it on the heat shield. Try to do it forward. There's that little piece right there with the nut or the bolt hole. I put mine on there and just easily let it up. You can use a piece of wood on there if you want to be precautious with a little slot in it, so that way it doesn't go either way. Just enough to get your jack stand underneath there. And like I said, they'll give you enough clearance if you want to move the two pipes in and out. And then from that point, we will be ready to proceed on. Right, now that you have your wheel off, as you can tell, mine has coilovers. So I'm pretty sure as an all-road owner, you already know to go ahead and put your vehicle in level 4 and lock out the suspension. If you don't know how to do that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube on how to. Pretty simple to do. Go ahead and YouTube that up. Now what you're going to have to do to start off with is you have the scatter shield, which is this little guy right here. You have 3 Allen bolts, one there, one on top, and one on the side. You're going to go ahead and take those off and pull that out of the way. You're going to need it for clearance to get to the 2 lower turbo bolts, which you can see one of them right there. And then also you have right there, if you can, see, there's the lower heat shield clamp. Go ahead and loosen that guy. Now don't take it all the way off, just go ahead and loosen it for now. Now go ahead and get that started. And if you can, there is a bolt here. And it's hard to tell if this little heat shield away. But any of the bolts for the transmission bracket heat shield that you can see, go ahead and start undoing those. Those are going to be 10mm bolts because you're going to need that to be removed to be able to take off your heat shield bracket. If you can't get to them all right now, that's fine. Because once parts start coming off, it'll be more easy to get to. And then from that point, you get to the rest of them. I know on the driver's side, I couldn't get to the top one until I had the pipe already removed. And then I could reach it. So don't worry about that one. And I said if you can't get to that or the upper transmission bracket bolt until the pipe's down, sometimes that happens. I said that's what I had to do for the driver's side. So just go ahead and unbolt those for now, and then we'll get going further. All right, now that we got the scatter shield off, I got the clamp for the heat shield for the exhaust loosened. I just slid it out the way. I was able to get 2 of the 10mm bolts for the transmission bracket heat shield. It looks like the third one's going to be behind the exhaust, so that one's going to have to wait. Now we have 2 bolts, as you can see on the bottom of the turbo. Both of them are 17mm. I'm going to go ahead and use a ratcheting wrench if possible, if not an open-end socket, to get those guys out. Now those are the easy ones. The top ones are the real pain in the ass ones. The other side, on the driver's side, I had to use a long extension with a swivel bit. For the top one, for the one that went off center, I had to use 2 swivel bits. One that went directly onto the head for the 17mm socket. Then I think it was a 6-inch extension, then another swivel bit. Then I had to reach my arm along the side of the firewall where the wheel well is to guide it onto the bolt. Then I could spin it. Now there's also going to be 2 5mm Allen heads that hold the heat shield on as well. Those actually bolt onto the exhaust, so you have to take those off. And after you get those off, there's actually a small bracket that connects to the heat shield to the turbo that you have to bend the tabs out of the way. Real giant pain in the butt. Pain in the butt. But, yeah, so let's go ahead and get these 2 little mamba jambas off first, and then we get started on the bitch bolts in the back. All right. A word of wisdom, the heat shield that covers the brake lines is just a wee bit sharp, so caution. Right. Next, we're going to get started on the thing that you are going to swear and bitch and cuss and hate Germany about, the bitch bolts. Now, I'm going to see if you can't see them. The first one, you'll be able to see from the rear. If you can't see it, it's right, kind of right there. You can see the head of it, and right below it is that little 5mm. So you got to get them both out. And then the other one, you can't see, but it's going to be on that side. You can feel it when you go up the side of the turbo. And the same thing, you got to get that 5mm and the 17mm off. So I'm not going to record this because I'm pretty sure Facebook would, or I'm sorry, YouTube and Facebook would kick me off for obscenities. And it took me like an hour for the last 2 to figure it out. So best of luck. You're going to have a lot of fun with this part. No, you're not. And when I get them off, we'll continue. Random tip: if you have a U-joint that is just a little too floppy, and keeps flopping around. You can't get it on. Put a little bit of painter's tape on it, stiffen it up. Makes your life a shit ton easier. Little tip for getting the bitch bolts out is the one you can see comes out pretty easily, but remove the two 5mm first, and for the passenger side one, it's straight up on top, and it's really difficult to get with the heat shield in the way. So best bet is remove the two 5mm bolts, hold the heat shield on, and then go underneath the heat shield, and then from that point a little dirty. When you're underneath the heat shield, then from that point, it's a lot easier to actually access the last bolt. It's in the very top position. You kind of got to play around with the extensions and what you want to use. I know for the one really difficult 5mm bolt to get, the one you can't see, that one I think I had to use a 3-inch extension after the first universal joint before I got to the second one that went to the 5mm to get it off, and I had to go up by the secondary cat, kind of wiggle around it, and then feel it into place from the side, and then get it in there, and then finally get it off. And I said some very interesting words when I did that. So that's a little note to you for helping you out. I know I did the same thing on the driver's side for the last one too, as I went underneath, because it's just really hard to get in that heat shield. Just adds extra room. Plus, the heat shield lifts up a little bit, so it's hard to get straight on the bolt. So if you go underneath it, you just go right to it. So, word of advice. Right, now that we got the fun bolts off, if you haven't already, go ahead and remove your coupler here. You guys are going to need that so you can get the exhaust to wiggle around so you can get the rest of the stuff off. Also, you need to take off your front hanger, which is the guy right here with the spring on it. It is going to be a 13 and 13mm nut, so you can go ahead and use 2 wrenches or a socket or wrench or whatever you feel like. And then from that point, you're going to have to go up, and like I said, once you pull the heat shield back, there's going to be 2 tabs where those 2 5mm Allen heads went into. You're going to have to bend those up. And once you bend those up, you'll be able to pull your downpipe and front part of your exhaust down, and you'll be able to start getting to the rest of the bolts for the transmission bracket, and we'll pull off the transmission mount. But I'm running out of light right now, and I've been I already got the other side done and been doing other stuff. So I'm going to continue tomorrow, and we'll get ready, or we'll get on that in the morning. All right. Alright, now to get those 2 bolts loosened, you need to take off the bolt on the top of the transmission mount, which is going to be the 116mm bolt right there. So you can go ahead, have that loosened, so we can go ahead and start getting the transmission mount bolts. Now you see they're going to be Allen bolts. They are going to be, hold on a second, I have it. H18 is the tool I'm using to get them off. So there's going to be 3 of them. One's right there. The other ones I got to see once I start getting stuff out the way. But let's get those 2 bolts out the way for right now, and then work it from there. Alright, found the 3rd bolt for the heat shield. It is located right above the hanger. It's a 10mm bolt that sits right there. What I did is I just pushed the exhaust a little further out the way after I got it all loosened and everything down, put a jack stand underneath it, just enough to push it high enough. You got a couple extensions and went in there for 10mm and got that little SOB out the way. Now we already got 2 of the transmission bracket bolts done. The 3rd one is up high, so now what we're going to have to do is wiggle the downpipe down far enough so we can get up to it. And this one's going to be another one of them fun bolts, because of course, you know, German engineering. So I'm going to go ahead and see the best way to get this done and then report back. Alright, got the 3rd transmission mounting bolt. It was located, let's see if I can get it on video. Got a damn shock in my way. but it was located right at the very top of the shock. Now, the exhaust manifold was, or the downpipe was in the way. So what I did is I took the two little tabs on the top of the, yeah, see if I can get it here. Probably not very well. But the there's two little tabs that go over the turbo heat shield over to the downpipe. I bent those out of the way so I could put the turbo or the downpipe back into place. I put it into place just barely and then pulled it back till it's barely holding onto the studs, and then took a jack stand and pushed the downpipe up as far as I could, and then went in there with an extension and a universal joint, and I was able to hand push it in because I had to get it all the way in there so I didn't strip it, and I was able to get it out. So now I get to the joys of trying to wiggle it out. Now you want to take the transmission bracket off first. Actually, believe it or not, my mount just fell off, so that was cool. But wiggle the bracket out first, and then you're going to have to try taking the downpipe and then spinning it different angles until you get it out. It took me like 15 minutes to get the driver's side one out, and then eventually just kind of poof, fell out. So it can be done, and just got to keep playing with it. If you don't have enough room, you might have to jack your car up a little bit higher, or take a having a brain fart today. Anyways, might have to move where your jack stand is for your transmission if you need to get room for the pipe, or do whatever you need to do. But yeah, just keep playing around with it. Or if you're putting aftermarket ones on, or gutting them, you can do what I did and just cut it off and give you a little bit more room to play with. I didn't do that in the other one because I didn't need to, but for this one I figured, because I got the jack stand there now, I just went ahead and sawed that SOB off, so that way I got more room to play. Plus I had to cut it off anyways, so might as well knock it out now. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, victory, we got it out. Now I did have to take the hanger off. That was in the way. But this is a 17 millimeter bolt right there. After this came off, it came out easy breezy, lemon squeezy. Just slipped right out. So yeah, there you go. And honestly, getting them back in really isn't going to be all that hard. Once again, if you look up on the forums for if you're doing aftermarket, you already got the brackets off. So if you modify these brackets right away and do what they need to do if the picture's shown, and then mount these, I mean, you got to run the pipes in and then put these in, you should be able to run the excess power with or excess whatever the hell they are, Chinesium pipes, without having to pull the motor out. I don't know if people just never really wanted to try or not, but there you go, done. This one, the first one took me like 3 hours because I had no clue what the hell I was doing. I kind of had to figure it out as I went because there's no real guide. This one took me about an hour and a half because I kind of figured out what I needed to do, which I'm relaying to you guys. So altogether, it should be about 3 hours, and that's on the ground with hand tools. About 3 hours to take these little boogers out. I'm going to make another video on how to gut these, because I found out a good way of working these, but it's going to be in a separate video. So there you go. Have fun. Yay us. Woohoo. All road power.